56, 457, and 458 refer to the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for printing. Without objection, the House now advances 10th order of business, second reading of bills, joint resolutions. The House of 10th order of business.
March 26th, 2025. House Bill 436 by Revenue and Taxation Committee regarding urban renewal. Senate Bill 1167 by Judiciary and Rules Committee regarding weather modification districts. House Bill 395 is amended by State Affairs Committee regarding public utilities. House Bill 443 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Office of the State Board of Education. House Bill 444 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Department of Lands. House Bill 445 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Department of Water Resources. House Bill 448 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Department of Finance. House Bill 449 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Public Schools Central Services. House Bill 450 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Department of Fish and Game. Senate Bill 1170 by State Affairs Committee regarding Environmental Quality. House Bill 451 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Public Schools Educational Services for the Deaf and the Blind. House Bill 452 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Public Schools Idaho Digital Learning Academy Division. House Bill 453 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Public Schools Facilities Division. House Bill 454 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Public Schools Division of Teachers. House Bill 455 by Appropriations Committee regarding Appropriations Department of Environmental Quality. House Bill 263 as amended in the Senate by Ways and Means Committee regarding taxation. House Bill 174 as amended in the Senate by Transportation and Defense Committee regarding motor vehicle towing. House Bill 239 as amended in the Senate by Education Committee regarding education.
House Bill 436, Senate Bill 1167, House Bill 395 is amended, 443, 444, 445, 448, 449, 450, Senate Bill 1170, House Bill 451, 452, 53, 454, 455, House Bill 463 is amended in the Senate, House Bill 174 is amended in the Senate, and House Bill 239 is amended in the Senate will be filed for third reading calendar. The House will now advance the 11th order of business, third reading of bills and joint resolutions. The House of 11th order of business. Could jump 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ask unanimous consent that House Bill 379 and House Bill 437 hold their place on the third reading calendar one legislative day.
As consent has been requested, is there objection? Hearing none, the bills will hold their place on the third reading calendar, and the House will have under consideration House Bill 236 is amended in the Senate. Good gentlemen, 23.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 236 as amended in the Senate.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, good body. We have before us the bill that we passed unanimously earlier in the session. This is to remind you of what's here. It's the one that where people need, or students, as they get into high school, if they're transferring in lieu of discipline or they have certain convictions of a very serious nature, need to disclose that at the time of their entrance into school. It also was amended in the Senate, which was a very friendly amendment. It simply took the language dealing with the IEPs and 404 students and put it into its own paragraph, so it's very specific that those are dealt with under their own separate processes. We had all green lights the first time around, and I appreciate it, and all green board this time around. Thank you.
Hey, gentlemen, for the motion, for the debate on the motion. Hearing none, debate is closed. Question is, House Bill 236 is amended past the House. Clerk will lock machine. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any members change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 69 ayes, 1 nay. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 236 amended in the Senate. House Bill 236 amended in the Senate is passed the House. Correction title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the bill will be referred to the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for rolling. The House will now have before it House Bill 185 is amended in the Senate. Good gentlemen, 26.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to suspend the reading of the bill.
You got caught. She caught you, not me.
I'll try it again.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor to present the bill.
Good body. This is once again on regarding the search and rescue. Just a change as a friendly amendment when it went to the Senate, moving it from the catastrophic from the $4,000 to the $8,000 mark that any agency could pull from. Currently, I believe there's a little over $400,000 in this fund. There's only maybe 3 or 4 search and rescues that request money out of that fund. And so it's a good amendment. And once again, I would ask, as Representative Dygert said, I would appreciate all green lights. Thank you.
Further motions, further debate on the motion. Hearing none, hearing no negative debate, debate is closed. Question is, shall House Bill 185 as amended in the Senate pass the House? Clerk will unlock the sheet. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any members change their vote? Clerk will lock sheet and record the roll. 69 ayes, 1 absent and excused, majority having voted in favor of House Bill 185 as amended in the Senate. House Bill 185 as amended in the Senate passed the House. Correction to title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the title is approved. Bill be transferred to the Senate. The House will now have before it House Bill 282 as amended in the Senate. Good gentleman, 25.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of the bill, better known as House Bill 282 as amended in the Senate.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor to present the bill.
Yeah, this bill basically deals with the marital penalty that currently exists with homestead exemptions. And I've mentioned previously, and this was amended in the Senate at my request to take out a section that was a little bit confusing. But basically, currently, a married couple that owns a home and has an unexpected lien placed against their home or a judgment for more than $175,000 would only be protected up to $175,000. Any other 2 individuals that own the same home would get 2 homestead exemptions. This eliminates the marital penalty and says that a married couple owning the home would both be entitled to $175,000 in the exemption. So with that, I hope that everyone would support marriage and give us a green light.
Heard the motion. Further debate on the motion. Hearing none, hearing no negative debate, debate is closed. Question is, House Bill 282 is amended in the Senate pass the House. Clerk will lock the machine. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? 10 or 14? Alfieri, does any member change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 70 ayes, the majority having voted in favor of House Bill 282 as amended in the Senate. House Bill 282 as amended in the Senate passed the House. Correction to title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the title is approved. The bill referred to the Judiciary Rules Administration Committee for enrolling. The House will now have before it House Bill 81. Good gentleman from 7.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to dispense with any further reading of House Bill 81.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
This is the bill that gives recreation clubs a little bit of liability against frivolous lawsuits. It had a friendly amendment from the Senate that just clarified that if you see a danger, you morally should be obligated to warn your fellow recreationists that there's a danger. Same bill we voted on, just a little bit better. So hopefully I can get the soft-spoken gentleman from 22 to vote for it this time.
Heard the motion. Further debate on the motion. Hearing none. Hearing no negative debate. Debate is closed. Question is, House Bill 81 is amended in the Senate. Pass the House. Clerk will lock the machine. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Matthias. Does anyone change their vote? Good job, gentleman. 22. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the roll. 62 ayes, 8 nays, majority having voted in favor of House Bill 81 as amended in the Senate. House Bill 81 is amended as passed the House. Correction title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the title approved. The bill referred to the Judiciary Rules Administration Committee for enrolling. The House will now have before it House Bill 136 as amended in the Senate. Good gentleman, 3.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 136 as amended in the Senate.
As consent been requested, is there objection? Hearing none, gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to declare a Rule 80 as I do own retail pharmacies.
The gentleman would like to declare a conflict that will be noted on the journal. Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill, House Bill 136, passed unanimously out of this body earlier this year. It went over to the Senate, and the Senate did make an amendment. This came from the 340B entities that mentioned that they believe that there would be duplicative reporting, and we want to make sure we have accurate reporting within this bill. A little reminder, the 340B program was originally set up in 1992 for safety net providers and eligible hospitals to serve low-income and rural communities. It's now the second largest federal prescription drug program in our country with $66 billion spent annually. This bill simply adds transparency to ensure that discounted drugs are being used to serve those low-income and rural communities. This bill does not change anything with the 340B program. It's just asking to account for where those dollars are going. The amendment that came from the Senate was from, again, the 340B entities, and what they wanted was to remove the contract pharmacy report because it was duplicative of what the 340B was already reporting on those specific drugs. The contract pharmacy is simply the dispenser, and so they're still tracking for that. So we agreed to that amendment. They had a number of other amendments, the hospitals and 340B entities, that were not favorable. They would have really radiator capped this bill, and so we did not do any of those. In Idaho, the last full year we had for reporting was in 2023, and only 3.5% of covered entities were audited. Of that audit, 67% of them had findings of duplicate discounts and diversion of products. So I believe this is an excellent transparency bill. This body talks about transparency quite often. This is simply adding transparency into a federal program to make sure we are serving those low-income folks that need it. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your green light.
For debate on the motion, delay 34.
Will the gentleman yield to a question?
Gentleman yield.
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yield.
Mr. Speaker and good gentleman, you talked about the potential for duplication. I'm curious, are the state reports going to provide us with any additional information that isn't already required as a part of federal reporting?
Gentleman 3.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, the information will still be reported the same way. However, we'll have access to see that information. So we have 3 different groups getting reported to. The Controller's Office so that the public can see that information, as well as the Attorney General for Medicaid fraud, waste, and abuse, and then also to the Department of Health and Welfare as they administer the Medicaid program.
Delay 34.
Mr. Speaker, will the gentleman yield to a second question?
Gentleman yield to additional question.
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yield.
So, Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is if it was determined that the pharmacies themselves doing the reporting was duplicative, this information is already available. I guess at what point are we layering on additional administrative costs that we're ultimately going to have to pay for on a program that is supposed to be about actually saving us healthcare dollars?
Gentleman 3.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To actually access that information, it's very difficult. You need to know exactly what to ask for. And again, with only 3.5% actually being audited, there is mass abuse countrywide in this program. And this is simply adding transparency. It's not changing the program. It's adding transparency so we can see where these dollars are going.
For debate on the motion. Gentleman 35.
Would the good gentleman yield to a question?
Gentleman yield to question.
The good gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
You had mentioned just in your answer to the good lady from 34, good gentleman, that essentially there are 3 different state agencies that are going to be reported to. Can you, I don't remember talking about this in committee or even on the floor. Can you walk us through how will that reporting occur? Will there be one common reporting tool, or are we essentially asking these facilities, these businesses to report in 3 different ways to 3 different agencies? And again, this is getting way bureaucratic, I guess.
Gentleman 3.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good gentleman from 35. So the reporting is using those 3 agencies because, again, the Department of Health and Welfare administers Medicaid, the Attorney General so that they can work on fraud cases if there are any, and then to the Controller's Office so it's open to the public. It's the same set of information. It's simply data that these 340B entities are submitting, and it's data they should already have. It's simply taking what they acquired the drug cost for to what they ended up selling it for.
Gentleman 35.
To lightly debate the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has the floor.
good body, I was originally supportive of this bill in committee and here on the floor. I'm concerned that with these amendments, and as I've heard more from my small rural hospitals, of which I represent several, that this is going to become overly burdensome without appropriate benefit to the state or to our constituents. And so for that reason, I would urge your red light until we can get this to a point where it is not so duplicative and so bureaucratically burdensome to our small rural hospitals, of which I should mention, I'm aware approximately 2/3 of them have been audited. These are our rural hospitals, so they are complying, and we need to not layer additional requirements on top of them.
For debate on the motion, gentleman one.
Aye to debate against the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
I too called home. We have a rural hospital in my neighborhood that's struggling. As you know, we lost our labor and delivery unit a couple of years ago. This bill adds burden to our local hospital. When I spoke to our hospital administrator, said, please red light this. It's duplicative, and we already have enough on our plate. So, thank you. I'm a no.
For debate on the motion, lady from 6.
I would like to ask the good gentleman a question, please.
Gentleman 3 yields the question.
The gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker and good gentleman. So in the amendment, when we took out pharmacies, can you tell me if a contract pharmacist is not required, why are we requiring others if we're not going to require our contract pharmacists to also report?
Gentleman 3.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good lady from 6. So this amendment came from the 340B entities because they believed that that would be duplicative. Because what the contract pharmacy does is it contracts with a 340B covered entity and they dispense the drug. So if you're reporting on the same drug twice, they were worried that that would not be accurate information. When I originally drafted the bill, I didn't see it as much as an issue because I think you can separate that, but it was a concession to the 340B entities to not be duplicative.
Thank you.
For debate on the motion, gentleman 14.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor.
Gentleman has the floor.
For one, this bill just deals with transparency. This information is already being sent, but it allows us to be able to see it. I appreciate the good bald gentlemen that spoke against the bill, but what I care about is the actual transparency that Idaho actually gets on this. There has been mass amount of fraud within 340B, not just in the state of Idaho, but across this country. Yes, there has been audits done, and yes, some of our rural hospitals have passed those audits, but there is still massive fraud within 340B. 340B programs, those are subsidized programs that are charged at times ridiculous amounts. Some of the ones that I've actually looked into are 1,400 times what they got it for. This is again a cost driver for our insurance companies. This bill actually just adds that transparency for us to see what that cost savings actually, what's actually being made, what that potential cost savings actually is, or the cost that's actually being done, and potentially if they really are charging some ridiculous amounts, maybe we should have some caps on some of these ones that can actually bring down costs across the state, helping all Idahoans. So with that, I'd ask for your green light.
For debate on the motion, gentleman 7.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor.
Gentleman has the floor.
Yeah, we keep hearing transparency. Are we talking about transparency, or are we talking about transparency when it's convenient? If transparency is overburdensome, so be it. That's part of the process. You want to take federal money, you want to take state money, you want to take taxpayer money, there's a process. And transparency should be at the very tippy top of that process so we know what our money is doing. Not transparency when it's convenient. Give it a green vote. This is a no-brainer.
For debate on the motion, hearing none, gentleman 3 care to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I completely agree with the good gentleman from 7. This is about transparency. This bill does not change anything with the 340B program. This bill puts transparency and accountability in the 340B program that the whole nation has said has been riddled with fraud, waste, and abuse. I would ask for your green light. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Debate is closed. Question is, shall House Bill 136 submitted to the Senate pass the House? Clerk will mark the machine. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? And Warren, McCann. Does everybody change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. 52 ayes, 18 nays, majority having voted in favor of House Bill 136 and is amended the Senate. House Bill 136 is amended the Senate, passed the House. Correct your title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the bill referred to the Judiciary Rules Administration Committee for enrolling. The House will now have before it House Bill 266 as amended in the Senate. Good gentleman from 35.
Let's see, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that we discontinue further reading of 266 as amended in the House and as amended in the Senate. Modernize our inspection process with building. And what the Senate decided they needed to amend was to make sure that it clarified 48 business hours. In other words, they didn't feel like 48 hours implied business hours. They didn't want somebody to call for an inspection on Friday afternoon and say that the 48 hours was up on Sunday. So that's the amendment that the Senate made. There's also a small clarifying amendment that if the local unit of government contracts with another agency or organization and they cause the inspection to be late, that party will be the one that pays the refund to the contractor or to the citizen. Those are simple amendments. Still a great bill. Love to have your green light on it. Thanks.
For debate on the motion. Hearing none. Hearing no negative debate. Debate's closed. Questions. House Bill 266 is amended in the Senate. Pass the House. Clerk will lock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Monks. He goes. They have to change their vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 70 ayes, majority having voted in favor of House Bill 266 as amended in the Senate. House Bill 266 as amended in the Senate is passed the House. Correct your title.
No correction to title.
Hearing the title approved, bill referred to the Judiciary Rules Administration Committee for enrolling. The House will now have before it House Bill 439. Good gentleman, 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 439.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Good gentleman from 17. Is there objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor to consent the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 439 is the enhancement appropriation for the Department of Administration. The Department of Administration is kind of the behind-the-scenes agency that makes state government work. They manage all our buildings, including the building that we're in right now. They manage insurance for all the various benefits that state employees, including ourselves, receive, health, life, etc. They manage risk management for the state. They handle copy services and postal services. Basically, they do a lot of the behind-the-scenes things that make our agencies work. This enhancement budget contains a few line items, about 6 in total. These are things that the working group looked at and determined that they were things that we needed to make sure that the state could continue to function and all the agencies can continue to get the services they need to function from the Department of Administration. You'll notice that they're all dedicated funds, and the total is only an increase of 1.5% over the maintenance bill, and it's actually a slight decrease from last year's total appropriation that we gave to the Department of Administration. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for your green light.
You've heard the motion. For debate on the motion. Gentleman 25.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
This is actually fairly close to the pledges I've taken. The only thing is it has 3 full-time positions. And looking through this, if those 3 full-time positions have been removed from this bill, we'd still be able to go and cover the governor's housing stipend. We'd be able to cover the cost for replacement items, IT hardware, as well as the security truck and trailer. It'd actually bring this down to about 0.75% increase. And that's something I could vote for, but as it stands right now, this is something I can't vote for. So thank you.
Hearing none, gentleman 21, carry close debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess in response to that, the only comment that I would make is that sometimes we do need to add employees to our state agencies. When JFAC goes in and makes these hard decisions, they are hard decisions to decide that we need to add additional employees. But the state is growing. We have a population that is growing faster than any, at least at one point recently, any other state in the country. And so sometimes we do need to add additional staff so that our agencies can provide the services that they are tasked per code to provide. With that, I'd ask for your green light.
Thank you, gentlemen. Debate is closed. Question is, House Bill 439 pass the House. Clerk will lock the machine. There's the cast of votes. So every member voted. Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 61 ayes, 9 nays. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 439. House Bill 439 is passed the House. Correction to title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, title is approved. Bill will be transferred to the Senate. The House will have before it now House Bill 150 is amended in the Senate. Good gentleman from 9.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that House Bill dispense with further reading of House Bill 150 as amended.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, so ordered. The gentleman has the floor to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill passed unanimously out of this House. It's our property rights bill that has to do with homestead exemptions and when that property is sold and whether it requires the consent of the other spouse. The Senate made a couple friendly amendments to this, just clarifying that any spouse is not going to be unduly harmed in the transfer of that. These are friendly amendments. I appreciate everyone's green light again as we pass this House Bill 150. Happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. For the motion, for debate on the motion. Hearing none, debate is closed. Question is, House Bill 150 is amended in the Senate. Pass the House. Clerk will lock the machine. The members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Birch. Does anyone wish to change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 70 ayes. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 150 is amended in the Senate. House Bill 150 is amended in the Senate. Passed the House. Correction title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the title is approved. Bill will be transferred to the Senate. Oh, no, it will not. This will be sent to the Judiciary Rules Administration for enrolling. The House will now have before it House Bill 102 is amended in the Senate. Good gentleman from 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 102 as amended in the Senate.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a reminder, this bill relates to the dissolution of recreation districts. The Senate worked with me on an amendment for the alternative path just to apply to those that have experienced significant growth. This bill had 56 green lights last time. I think this amendment addresses some of those concerns, so I'd ask for your green light once again.
Any gentlemen, for the motion, for debate on the motion. Hearing none, hearing no debate, debate is closed. Question is, House Bill 102 as amended in the Senate. Pass the House. Clerk will lock the machine. Members will cast their vote. Has every member voted? Raybold. Does anyone have to change Ehart? Does anyone have to change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 68 ayes, 2 nays. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 102 as amended in the Senate. House Bill 102 is amended in the Senate. Pass the House. Correction title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the title is approved. The bill will be transferred to the Judiciary Rules Administration Committee for enrolling. The House will now have before it House Bill 187 as amended. Good gentleman, 35.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask unanimous consent that we discontinue further reading of House Bill 1087 as amended.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Senate Bill 1087 as amended is addressing a issue for our constituents who are applying for Social Security disability benefits. A lot of times they are required to provide a copy of their medical records when applying for an approved claim. And while they can obtain a copy themselves for free, if they're using an attorney or someone else to help them, they have fallen into this hole where they're being charged by these large third-party aggregator companies for a copy of their medical records. And sometimes they end up charging upwards of $1.50 per page for electronic copies of their medical records. And so your medical records, because they can sometimes be duplicate pages, can end up costing somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500 for a copy of your medical records. So that's the challenge, is these people are required to provide their medical records to obtain their Social Security benefits, and they sometimes can't even afford to pay for that copy of their record. So Senate Bill 1087 takes a very narrow approach, says to healthcare providers, if someone is coming with a valid claim for their Social Security benefits, you need to provide one copy of their medical records at no charge. And so that is going to remove some unnecessary financial and bureaucratic burdens from our citizens and allow them to access the benefits that they have frankly earned and that they deserve. I'd be happy to take questions, Mr. Speaker, but more importantly, I'd welcome everybody's green light.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the motion. For debate on the motion. Hearing none, hearing no. Gentleman from 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to debate the bill.
I have the floor.
Thank you. This bill is what I would like to call the Attorney Medical Records Benefit Act. I would suggest that if attorneys are charging $1,500 to obtain those records, there's significant markup involved. It's a very complicated process now to produce medical records because we document everything in hospitals. What we're really doing here is we're shifting the cost from the attorneys to the hospitals. So those of you that are concerned about the cost in smaller hospitals and the struggles that they're having, I think this is this bill does not help those smaller hospitals. I would suggest that if this bill were to go forward, if we revisit it next year, we should have a limitation on the records, because what happens is when an attorney goes to apply for records for a patient, what they will do is ask for the complete records rather than the immediate issue that's being addressed. So we may go back 10, 15, 20, 30 years worth of records. That is an enormous cost on hospitals. Someone's got to bear that cost, and attorneys are marking those costs up to their clients. That's why you're seeing these massive bills. This bill is flawed. It should go back. We should do a red light on this one.
For the motion, for debate on the motion. Delay 2.
Would the sponsor yield a question?
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentlemen. I'm curious about liability for not having the proper records. Does that fall on the law firm, or would that fall on the hospital?
Jump 35.
Mr. Speaker, if I understand the question properly, the good lady from 2 is wondering if the medical records are incomplete that are provided to apply for these benefits, Social Security benefits that these citizens are owed, would there be a liability that would fall on the hospital or these third-party medical record providers? What I will say is I am not aware of a penalty or liability that would fall on them under current statute.
Delay 2. For debate on the motion. Hearing none, would the good gentleman 35 care to close debate?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'll close, keep my notes here for just a second if I can. One thing to be aware of is I appreciate the good gentleman from 4's near lawyer joke, I guess, is probably the argument that I would call that. This is going to apply to advocates also, to family members who might be helping these disabled citizens. They would then be charged, and it is only the citizen who may be able to obtain the free medical records, but oftentimes has to employ a lawyer or has to get help because of either their condition or because it is fairly complicated to understand which medical records you need to ask for to properly receive your benefits. Another thing I want to mention, I understand the idea of sort of being cautious and taking time. This bill has been worked on before my time in the legislature. This is the 5th year that something of this nature has been brought. It's been narrowed and focused and really honed to the razor sharp edge that you see before you now. And I want to point out that it does exempt small providers with under 50 employees. And so for some of our smallest rural hospitals, this won't be a burden. One of the reasons we can exempt them is they don't overcharge their neighbors and citizens for these medical records. And so with that, good body, I again would ask for your green light.
Thank you, gentlemen. Debate is closed. Question is, shall Senate Bill 1087 as amended pass the House? Clerk will lock the machine. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Rebel. Does any members change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine. Record the roll. 28 ayes, 42 nays, less than majority having voted in favor of Senate Bill 1087 as amended. Senate Bill 1087 as amended has failed to pass the House and return to the Senate. This House will now return to the 7th order of business. Motion, memorials, resolutions. House at 7th order of business. Gentleman 7, 22, I mean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for a privilege and a motion.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're able to do some good work there, Mr. Speaker, and get through that third reading calendar. We still have a few minutes before the lunch hour. I'd like to pick up a few bills on the second reading calendar and then come back this afternoon and pick up the rest of them there. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move that all rules interfering with the immediate consideration of House Bill 395 as amended be suspended, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 395 as amended.
Delayed from 18.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
The urged motion is not a debatable motion. Requires 2/3 of the body or 47 votes to pass. Clerk will lock the machine. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Bandawada. Raymond. Does any members change the vote? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. 70 ayes, more than 2/3 of the body having voted in favor of the motion. The motion passes, and the House will have under consideration House Bill 295 as amended. Could jump to 28.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 395 as amended.
As consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor to present House Bill 395 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good body. What you have before you in House Bill 395 is a ratepayer protection bill for electric users. What it does is it takes any large load customer that's over 30 megawatts, which is enough to power over 20,000 houses. That is like the city of Idaho Falls or the city of Pocatello that just pops up overnight. And it allows them to, it directs the Public Utilities Commission that they are supposed to make sure and gives them more guidance that cost of that new power generation or the transmission lines are not spread out to the electric users or the households that are already on the grid or small businesses. It also allows these large users to go out and buy the power on the free market and get it that way in case the power company can't provide it. I think we all realize that Idaho Power is at its max generation capacity, and that as these big, large loads come in, that we're going to have more generation and more power lines to provide the electricity to these companies. And this would allow the Public Utilities Commission to make sure that those big users of electricity are paying for their share of the cost to do all that. And with that, I'd like to ask for your green light on this, and we'll gladly stand for questions.
For the motions, for debate on the motion. Hearing none, No negative debate. Case closed. Question is House Bill 395 is amended. Pass the House. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 62 ayes, 8 nays, majority having voted in favor of House Bill 395 is amended. House Bill 395 is amended. Is passed House. Correction title.
No correction to title.
399 title approved. Bill will be transferred to the Senate. Jump 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to the roll call used for suspension of rules on House Bill 395 as amended. Now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 443, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 443.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the roll call use suspension rules on House Bill 395 are 70 ayes. The rules are suspended and the House Bill under consideration. House Bill 443 is amended. 443, the gentleman 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 443.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor. Consent to bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 443 is the enhancement appropriation bill for the Office of the State Board of Education. If you look at the fiscal note on this one, you'll notice that there's about 15 or 16 line item requests that the Office of the State Board of Education came to us with. We cut over half of those. This is one of those agencies that's grown quite a bit in recent years, and we decided that we needed to take some measures to make sure that their growth was in check, and so we cut a significant number of those line items down. Now, I want to highlight one item in particular because it is the big one. Honestly, the other things in here are fairly small. You'll see that there is at the very end there, at number 16, there is a line item for $5 million. And what that line item is that's $5 million that will go out to our technical colleges on a one-time basis that they will have to get matching funds from private industry for to buy hardware and other physical necessitated things to deal with programs that have wait lists. So what all that means basically is that you've got programs at, say, Lewis and Clark State College or one of our community colleges that have long wait lists, and they need something like a welder or a nursing station in order to help draw down that wait list and offer more capacity to students who want to take those career technical education programs. This request originally came in at $15 million from a gentleman on the second floor. That was something that a lot of people wanted to do, quite frankly. A lot of people wanted to do that $15 million on a one-time basis to try to really drive down the wait lists in some of these technical programs. Other folks wanted to do none of that. And so what we ended up with is what I believe to be a compromise at a $5 million amount that will go out towards initially bringing down the wait lists at these technical colleges. Other than that, there's not a lot else in this budget that I think needs to be mentioned, but if anyone does have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. With that, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your green light.
For the motion, for debate on the motion.
Speaker.
Jump 3.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman stand for a question?
Jump 21, yield the question.
Happy to, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman. So I heard you say that the $5 million was matching, so that it cannot be spent until there's matching money, or how does that work?
Jump 21.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, good gentleman, that's exactly right. So when this request first came in, there wasn't a lot of details from the gentleman on the second floor's office on how they envisioned this being implemented. So what we did is we created language that would put a lot of constraints around how that money can be spent. One of those requirements is that they do have to have those matching dollars in before they can use any of that money. And you can see the full details, the language in the bill itself does have the full details on all the constraints.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you,
For
gentleman.
debate on the motion. Gentleman 24.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to debate against the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you. I think many of you are waiting for one of us to stand up and talk about a pledge. Have you heard about a pledge going around? Well, there's a pledge a few of us have decided to sign on to for these enhancements. We want to keep the lights on, we want to keep the machine running, but as regards to enhancements, we did not want to sign on to any more full-time employees growing the government We didn't want to take any extra federal funds, and we did not want to grow that enhancement over 1.2%, which still gives some wiggle room for replacement and things of that nature. What I'm looking at here is another full-time employee and a 9.5% increase. And if my numbers are correct, I believe this base has grown by about 240% in the last 3 years. So I have to be a no on this one, and I'm asking for more red lights.
Further debate on the motion? Hearing none, gentleman 21 carried close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to point out something in response to that, yes, this does have a 9.5% increase on the enhancement bill. That is almost entirely driven by that $5 million one-time investment. So if you don't count that $5 million of one-time money, we're not really growing the base on this budget. It's a very tiny amount that's being grown outside of that one-time expenditure. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for a green light. I think this is a good budget. It represents a lot of work on JFAC's part to rein this budget in. That's why you see so many line items that are zeros on this budget.
Allen, thank you. Base closed. Question is, shall House Bill 443 pass the House? Clerk will unlock the machine. Members will cast their votes. Birch. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 33 ayes, 37 nays, less than the majority having voted in favor of House Bill 443. House Bill 443 has failed to pass the House and will be filed in the office of Chief Clerk. Gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to the roll call used for suspension of rules on House Bill 395 as amended now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 444, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 444.
That's considered requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the roll call used suspension of rules on House Bill 395 as amended with 70 ayes. The rules are suspended and the House will have under consideration House Bill 444. Good gentleman from 29.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 444.
As consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, John has the floor to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the appropriation. This is to the Department of Lands. It provides an enhancement to the fiscal year 2026 maintenance budget. This includes a transfer of $40 million to the general fund for fire suppression, to the deficiency warrant fund for firefighting activities. This last firefighting season, the state incurred costs of about $60 million. So with that remaining balance, what this does is transfer into that fund to cover the costs going to the last fire season. Going forward, you'll see an additional $60 million. This does not include an additional $60 million that was requested by the gentleman on the second floor. So going forward to pay for fire, we will continue to use deficiency warrants. What that means is we will continue to use a credit card versus a debit card to pay for fire. If we have fire seasons like we did last year, going forward, we're going to continue to have those deficiency warrants, and we'll have to continue to make one-time transfers or figure out going forward how we're going to continue to pay for fire. This appropriation does not include $323,000 and 2 additional FTP that were requested by the Department of Lands. This appropriation also shifted $83,000 from the general fund to dedicated fund sources. And these are the one-time monies are removed from the agency's budget at the end of the fiscal year. And this received unanimous support from our House Appropriations Committee, and ask for your support.
For the motion, for debate on the motion. 1, 2, 3. Gentleman from 11.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate the bill.
Someone has the floor.
Okay, so it doesn't include 2 full-time personnel, but it does include 3 new full-time personnel at a cost of $577,000. 3 for $577,000. It's a 9% increase over maintenance. We've said we won't vote for anything over 1.2%, which is enough to cover replacement items. It's, there was a $1.25 million request in there from the gentleman on the second floor for recruitment and retention bonuses. And this is the second consecutive year that the gentleman from the second floor has requested this. I will be a no vote on this, and I hope you'll join me. Thank you.
For debate on the motion, gentleman from 30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman from 29 yield to a question?
Gentleman yield.
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Gentleman, will you indulge me on what is probably a dumb question? When I'm looking at this budget, I'm trying to better understand when I look at Table 1 and Table 2, and I see inside Table 1 that we have a 9% increase, but then I see in Table 2 we have a 15% decrease. Can you educate me? Is the 15% decrease on the entire budget, including the enhancement, so we're actually decreasing the budget here? Or is it 9% on top of the 15, so is it really just a negative 6% decrease?
Jones, you said 29.
Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, if you're looking at the bottom of Table 2, the total on that bottom line is a 15% decrease.
Gentleman 30.
Follow-up question?
Gentleman yield to additional question.
So is it fair, thank you. Is it fair to say then that we are actually decreasing this budget?
Jones, 29.
Mr. Speaker, it's accurate to say this is an overall decrease of 15% from the prior year's total appropriation.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, for debate on the motion, lady from 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to debate in favor of this bill.
The lady has the floor.
Thank you. We passed a bill earlier off this floor that if our federal partners in firefighting did not do their job, we were going to step in and we're going to save property that is next to or in some of our federal lands. And so now we have passed that, but now we want to debate against that. We're going to support putting these firefighters to work. In District 6, District 7, many of our own districts, we can look at what happened with fire last season, and it was devastating to some people in our areas. And so I understand we're looking at cutting, but maybe this is not the area that we need to cut. I was disappointed in this budget in the fact that I feel that we needed more money to support our firefighters, but JFAC is working so hard to cut because this body is saying cut, cut, cut. But however, I just could not, because in good conscience, our people require, and this is an area that they cannot fight themselves. And this is an area that is our responsibility as a body to protect. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would hope you would support this budget along with many other green lights. Thank you.
For debate on the motion. Hearing, gentleman 25.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Debate.
Has the floor.
As far as this budget goes, the way that I see it, I do appreciate what our firefighters have done. And there has been a lot of issues with the fires over the last couple of years, and they've done a phenomenal job. But as far as the budget process goes itself, we can go and sit there and cut all this money from the maintenance budget. But the problem is, it's like having a credit card, paying off part of that credit card, and then turning around and charging back to that credit card. Eventually, it adds back up again. And it gets to that point where you have to go and figure out another way to go pay it off. So with that, I won't be voting for this. Thank you.
For debate on the motion. Hearing none, gentleman 29, care to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll just remind the body, and in light of the last comment, we will continue to pay for fire using a credit card. This does not change the way that we pay for fire. Just wanted to point out this is a decrease from 2025 of 14 FTPs and a decrease in general funds of 21%. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Day's closed. Question, House Bill 444 pass the House. Clerk will mark the machine. Members will cast your votes. Has every member voted? Palmer's gone. Senior members change your vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 47 ayes, 22. Oh, and report the pairs. Excuse me.
Matthias votes aye. Burgoyne votes nay.
47 ayes, 22 nay, 1's absent. Excused. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 444. House Bill 444 is passed. House correction to title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the bill will be transmitted to the Senate. Without objection, the House will now return to the fifth order. Oh. Well, let's do one more bill. What we're trying to do, everybody, the Speaker will take your privileges. She's getting a report out here so we can move the bills up and down the order. Since their intention is to move things fast. And so, good gentlemen, if you don't mind, give me a call.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just checking with somebody to make sure we were good.
Sorry, good gentleman. 31.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for suspension rules on House Bill 395 as amended now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 448, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 448.
As has been requested, is there objection? Hearing none, the roll call use suspension rules on House Bill 395 as amended for 70 ayes. The rules are suspended and the House will have under consideration House Bill 448. Good gentleman, 31.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 448.
As has been requested, is there objection? Hearing none, the gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm really hungry, so I'll hurry.
That's a good time to stay here for a while.
House Bill 448 includes an additional appropriation for the Department of Finance. The Department of Finance covers financial institutions, consumer finance bureaus, and security bureaus. Together, they have the responsibility to take care of Idaho's depository institutions, all the financial institutions, the collection agencies, the credit repair organizations, things like that. They also regulate securities activities that many of us delve into. This enhancement has had up to 6 employees. We've got back into this budget. We've tried to cut more out of it. We cut an additional employee. They asked for 6. We're down to 4. We think we can get by with that. And then they have some IT replacements. It has a 5.7% increase in the maintenance budget. There are several of these people that they're requesting are really important. And we've gone through their budget. I don't think they'd request them unless they really needed them. And I'm going to go through some of the reasons they do. They need a financial IT examiner, and what they need that for is the mobile banking has become an increasingly prevalent. Many of you deposit your checks that way. I know I do. I get my paycheck. I don't get a paycheck, actually. My wife gets a paycheck. But when she gets a paycheck, I check her account to make sure that it's really there, and I do that on my phone. And I look at that. We're looking at some investigators for the securities business. Their caseloads have gone up 36% since 2023. And we're seeing a huge increase in cybersecurity claims in this department. And frankly, the caseloads have become so much that they just can't handle all the cases that are coming toward them. And when that happens, they ask for more employees. And so they've asked for more people to help with cybersecurity. And currently they don't have anybody in the department, excuse me, that handles cybersecurity. And so these people that they're looking at hiring will have cybersecurity experience and will be able to help those people. 99% of the fund sources come from, let me back up. They're also asking for a forensic accountant, and they currently don't have a forensic accountant. They would like to have one of those. They're currently seeing over $140 million exposure in forensic accounting for this person to review. So it'll be a big job. With that, I just wanted to mention that these have several fund sources. This agency actually has remitted $31 million back to the general fund. They collect the fees from stockbrokers, from banks, And if they have extra money, they revert that back to the general fund. With that, I just want to mention one more thing, if I could. The circumstances really have changed on this budget, but over $38 million in Idaho was absconded in 2023 by cybersecurity claims. And so that's one of the reasons they're looking really hard at helping with this. Claims have gone from $300,000 in 2021 to $15 million in cyber currency fraud. I know that many of you have taken a pledge to do 1.2%, and this budget has a higher than that. The problem is criminals don't track inflation rates, and they don't care. We've had a 36% increase in the criminal part of this. Criminals just don't care. They don't track inflation. They just keep stealing money. This budget is about helping Idahoans not lose their money. I'd hope you'd give this a green light. I can tell you we've worked really hard to trim this budget down. It's a good budget now. Appreciate your green light.
Heard the motion, heard the motion. Gentleman from 30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to declare Rule 80, this department directly regulates my firm.
Declaration shall be noted. Gentleman 31. Declaration shall be noted. Gentleman 25.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Debate the bill.
On the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, $642,000. That's a lot of money, especially when we're all hungry, and I'd say that's a pretty expensive lunch. But with 4 full-time employees, that's just another growth of government. What I find interesting is I've heard many times in this body, how do you eat an elephant? Everybody says one bite at a time. Well, the same thing can be said about what we've been doing with government. How do you fill up a balloon? You do it one breath at a time. And you keep on doing it until that balloon gets too big, beyond the capacity, and that's when it pops. That's when the suffering comes. And with that, I won't be voting for this.
Order the debate on the motion. Gentleman from 11.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate the bill.
Has the floor.
A few minutes ago, I told you that the 3 FTPs was too much money. This one has 4 new FTPs at a cost of $590,200. It's quite a raise. It's 5.7% above the maintenance budget. We've already funded this department, and we've given them growth for CEC, etc. We need to vote no on this.
FTP is full-time employees.
Late 34.
To debate the bill.
Delay has the floor.
I appreciate the concern as it relates to growing government, but don't we have an obligation to our constituents to ensure that they're actually being protected? And not protected like in the paternal sense, but protected in the sense that when we have an obligation to them, in this sense when it comes to their finances, that we provide the necessary tools to ensure that their assets are safe, that their money is sitting in banks that are being audited and reviewed as needed to ensure that those assets are protected. People work hard. We should be doing our part to ensure that the banks that they are working with are protecting their finances. These requests are not about growing the size of government. They're about addressing the reality that the threat has changed. The bank robbers aren't coming in through the front doors. They're coming in through the internet. The ability for someone to come in and potentially remove funds from individuals' accounts is literally a life and death situation for some of these individuals who end up through scams and through other means losing all of their life savings, potentially losing access to any financial security that they have built up over the years. The Department of Finance is the body that exists in state law for the purposes of ensuring that banks are taking the necessary steps to fulfill their legal obligations as passed into law to protect the finances of Idahoans. We've had debates in this body all session long about the concerns about growing government. I would like for government to do the thing that we have asked it to do, which in this instance is secure Idahoans' finances. I ask for your green light.
Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 24.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor.
Gentleman has the floor.
Somewhere along the line here, we need to talk about what it takes to run government. And I do understand the passion to reduce spending, but I don't understand raising that passion above what it takes for government to function properly. If we're going to be an equal member in government, one of our functions is to govern. A lot of these things that we're looking at are statutory requirements. I apologize for the time, Mr. Speaker, but I just feel like we got to talk about some of this stuff. When Otter was governor, we had a severe downturn. And one of the things that he did that I thought was great is he had every agency go back and look at the statutory requirements, zero-based budgeting, zero-based funding. Look at the statutory requirements of every government agency, every committee, every board, every commission, and figure out what it took, how much money it took to provide those services. That's a baseline. That's one of the things that we've talked about in JFAC. We've been short on analysts to help us do it. But we need to take every one of these budgets and take it back to that zero-based accounting. See what the statute calls for. See what is required to do that. How many people? How this all works. We have to provide the cybersecurity. Does it make sense to leave cybersecurity shorthanded to allow people to commit fraud? Is that logical? Is it logical? Would you do it in your business? Would you do it in your home? Part of this money, I'm going to talk about the aged because I know something about that. When you hit about 65 or 70, that's when you really become a target for scams, really for fraud. And they're really good. And I imagine there's a lot of you guys don't get those phone calls or don't get those emails. But I get stuff, I'll get 30 phone calls a day. There's no way to block them. 30, 35 phone calls a day. It'll be about Medicaid or Medicare or an outstanding bill that I haven't paid. And if I don't pay it, I'm going to get collected. And if I don't do something about my home, I'm going to lose my home. Now that may sound silly to some of you guys. I understand that you probably don't get that, don't see it. Some of you have been scammed online. But particularly for this population, as they get to that age, they're hit with everything, and it's hard for them to discern. It's hard for them to understand. And if we can get people in place that can chase this down and get some of that back, I think it's irresponsible not to do it. I really do. We need to help people we can help. We need to govern. We need to govern. We have a responsibility to govern. That's what you got elected for. It's what we took an oath for. I ask for your green light.
For debate on motion. Gentleman 26.
Mr. Speaker, to debate briefly, please. I'm hungry too. Okay. To beat on one side of a balance sheet, the expenditures, if you run a business, you also have to look at the income side of it. What we haven't talked about here is source of funds. These are dedicated funds. They're coming from the industry that's being regulated. To my view, cut off our nose to spite our face. On the income side, clearly there's a few more dollars moving within our economy, and there's a whole lot of different avenues that it's moving through it. To sit here and worry so much about the expenditure side and move the perspective that this is what one of our businesses, frankly, are generating. I hate to overplay capitalism, but if we don't take care of our income stream, basically the dedicated funds that are coming to us and we're appropriating here, it's just simply not looking at both sides of the business. We need to protect the income stream, not just our citizens, but to protect the basic foundation, really, of our financial institutions, and that's to mind our money. So not simply the cost side, but frankly, the income side. This should have a green light.
For the debate on the motion, Lady 32.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor of the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This body funds the Internet Crimes Against Children unit at the Attorney General's office. You didn't see a budget come up this year because they only asked for a maintenance budget. In that unit, there is more crime than they can fight. This is a similar situation. I know it says Department of Finance on the bill, but really, this is about going after criminals. In JFAC, we were persuaded, due to the levels of attacks and the amount of money being stolen, that they needed 5 to properly combat and shut down some of that. You told us otherwise, so we're coming back with 4. We'll do it again if you make us. But we're doing it at the expense of Idahoans whose funding is at risk because we don't have the staff to go after the criminals. As the good lady from 34 said, they're not coming in the front door as much anymore. They're coming in through the internet, and that's what this budget will help stop. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For debate on the motion, gentleman from 11.
To debate.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really do appreciate the input of everybody in here, everybody that sees both sides of the argument. The issue that I would like to just touch on briefly, the 1.2% increase that several of us have taken the pledge to uphold is what has been calculated in for inflationary growth year upon year, with the understanding that next year's maintenance budget is going to be the sum of this year's maintenance and enhancement. You know, if we go back and we look at the growth of the state over the past 5 or 6 years, you know, latest figure was 55%. 55% growth in 5 years it's not insignificant, right? And how long does that trend of growth continue? And I would argue that the growth is not proportional to the growth of the state, either of the population or the industry that's coming in here. And the issue that I guess I'm just really having a lot of heartburn with when I'm looking at these enhancement budgets, and there are a few of these enhancement budgets that fall within the category of what we will support. You know, if there's not increased full-time positions, if there's not money coming from the federal government, if there's not a growth, a percentage-wise, over 1.2%, we'll vote on those enhancement budgets. But when we look at some of these enhancements that are anywhere from like 5%, 9%, 30%, or somewhere above or below any of those numbers, the question I keep asking myself, and I would, with all due respect, ask every member of this body is, are the people who are paying out of their taxes to fund these programs, have they gotten a raise out of any of those numbers? Have they gotten a 5%, a 30% raise? And I would say by and large, no, they haven't. So where do we keep funding this growth from year upon year, especially coming through a time of, again, very historic inflation where the average everyday citizen is struggling to pay bills, is struggling to pay rent and put food on their table and feed their children and pay for everything else. And so I feel for those people. And I hope that as a legislative body, while yes, we do have the responsibility to fund government, I would just ask that we consider the people who are providing this funding out of their tax dollars that is paid to the government, and that we not become so disconnected from the base that we represent that we forget that it is the hard work and the sweat of the taxpayers of the state to keep the lights on here, and just to be mindful of that. And I appreciate everybody's input once again, but I will have to be a red light on this bill. Thank you.
Further debate on the motion. Jump 23.
Mr. Speaker, I just need to declare Rule 80, they actually issue my banking license.
Thank you, gentlemen. Your declaration to be noted in the journal. Hearing none, with the gentleman 31, care to close the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the debate. It's been really good. I might just remind the body of a few things. I appreciate the 1.2%, whatever, however you come up with that number, that's fine. It's a statewide growth in inflation. We've had a 6% increase in population. That's if you add that up, that's a 7.2% inflation plus growth. This budget's 5.7. It's interesting, in 2023, we had 1,757 cyber claims in Idaho, according to the FBI. Those are the ones they tracked. Over 500 of those were from age 60 and greater. So they are preying on the older. And I hate to admit this, but I got scammed last year. And I think I'm pretty savvy. I think I'm pretty technically savvy. I think I know my stuff. I think I can read an invoice. I got an invoice from a company, a computer company, that I buy my computers from. It looked legit. It was $410. I paid it. And then I got thinking I didn't receive anything from that company that said I paid it. So I called around, went to Jakarta. Now you might think that's funny. I didn't think it was funny. I got scammed. That's what this is all about. It's $410. Can I afford it? Yeah, maybe. I didn't like it. I was pretty upset about it. My wife teases me about it. I don't like that. But we need these people to stop this. And I'm telling you, I think I know what I'm doing. My mother-in-law, my mother, they would have paid that bill too. Let's green light this. Let's get this cybersecurity under control, and let's see if we can save a few pesos. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Debate is closed. Question is, House Bill 448, pass the House. Clerk will unlock the machine. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 43 aye, or read the pairs.
Matthias votes aye. Tanner 14 votes nay.
43 ayes, 26 nay, 1 absent excused. Majority have voted in favor of House Bill 448. House Bill 448 is passed. House. Correct title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the title of the approved bill be transferred to the Senate. Without objection, the House now return to the fifth order of business. Report of standing committees. The House at the fifth order of business.
In the House of Representatives, March 26th, 2025. Mr. Speaker, we are Committee on Judiciary Rules and Administration report that we have printed House Concurrent Resolution 19 and House Bills 456, 457, and 458. Skog, Chairman.
House Bill 456, we filed in the Office of the Chief Clerk. House Bill 457, we filed for second reading. House Concurrent Resolution 19 referred to State Affairs, and House Bill 458 referred to Education. Without objection, the House now advances 15th order of business. Announcements. The House at the 15th order of business. Are there announcements? Good gentleman, 23.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for a privilege.
Has the floor.
Up in the gallery, we were visited with my wife Annette, that many of you know, but also our third son Kyler is with us, and he serves as a deputy in Bear Lake County and as the SRO at Bear Lake High School. If you'd welcome them.
Welcome. He's really good at branding calves. Is there any other further announcements? Hearing none, clerk may read.
House
Clerk may read.
House Agricultural Affairs Committee will meet Wednesday, March 26th, 1:30 p.m., East Wing Room 42, Andrus, Chairman. House Environment, Energy, and Technology Committee will meet Wednesday, March 26th, 1:30 p.m., East Wing Room 41, Barbieri, Chairman. House Local Government Committee will meet Wednesday, March 26th, 1:30 p.m., East Wing Room 5, Ehart, Chairman. And House Transportation and Defense Committee will meet Wednesday, March 26th, 1:30 p.m., East Wing Room 40, Palmer, Chairman.
Are there further announcements? Good Lady 33.
Well, I was almost accused, Mr. Speaker, of annoying the clerk. No, for an announcement.
Good Lady has floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier today, it was just a Senate resolution, but it was kind of impactful to me. So I thought I'd just bring it up, given that we are in this historic, shall we say, remembrance of those things that occurred to really set the groundwork for our country. And that is the President Pro Tem had a resolution basically honoring, which would have been Sunday, the 250th anniversary of a stirring speech that Patrick Henry had given to the people of Virginia, to basically call them up to help with the militia in Massachusetts. And it was so stirring, it moved the good Pro Tem to tears. And I didn't make a copy, I just made a copy for myself. But if anybody wants to go on and read it, it would be Senate Resolution 112. And at the very least, I thought I'd just take this opportunity, because I thought it was appropriate to remind us of what our founders did to give us this country, and even allow us as a state to sit so privileged and honored right here and do those things that our founders really laid the groundwork to do with a lot of courage. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good Lady 33. Further announcements. Hearing on Jump 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House now recess into the hour of 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Item 18.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Heard the motion to recess until the hour of 3 p.m. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. The House is recessed till 3 p.m.
We now
We'll pause it till 3 p.m.
House meeting order. Before going to these, the House is in the 15th order of business. Without objection, let's go to a roll call. Let's do a roll call. Clerk will unlock the machine. Members will cast their presents. Yeah, cast the roll. I never know what to say on that one. Wheeler. Tanner 14. Nicholson. Horman. Clerk will lock machine, record the roll. 69 present, 1 absent, excused. The House ready to business. Without objection, the House now return to the 4th order of business. Consideration of message from the Governor and Senate. House at the 4th order of business.
From the Senate, March 26th, 2025. Mr. Speaker, I return herewith enrolled House Bills 321, 352, and 381, and House Joint Resolution 6, which have been signed by the President, Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
House Bill 321, 352, 381 will be delivered to the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for delivery to the Governor. House Joint Resolution 6 will be delivered to the Judiciary Rules Committee for delivery to the Secretary of State.
March 26th, 2025. Mr. Speaker, I return herewith House Bill 96 as amended in the Senate and House Bill 264 as amended in the Senate, which have passed the Senate. Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
House Bill 96 as amended in the Senate. House Bill 264 as amended in the Senate be held at the desk. Good Lady 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 96, the amendments, this is our flag bill, and the amendments for this bill, they wanted to add flags of other countries during special events, and university flags, just the University of Idaho flag. No, just teasing, all universities, even BSU. So these are friendly amendments, and it makes it a little bit, gives them a little bit more leniency. So with that, I would ask that we concur with the amendments.
B, unanimous consent has been requested to concur to the amendments to House Bill 96 amended in the Senate. Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered. The House does now concur to the amendments to House Bill 96 amended in the Senate. Good lady from 33. Yeah, get out of her way where her hands go. You're going to get hurt.
Sorry.
That was kind of rude. Good lady, go ahead.
Time out. I'm about to speak. Okay.
You can stop handing those out.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Speaker. Little distraction here. This has to do with the women's safety and privacy on 264. The Senate had a pretty reasonable amendment with which I concur, which would be clarifying that particularly in the female juvenile or prisons, that a member of the opposite sex, if they are an enforcement officer, could walk through certain spaces, and so we certainly concurred. And so with that, I would ask unanimous consent that the good body does concur with the amendments on 264 from the Senate.
Good lady from 34. Unanimous consent has been requested to concur to the Senate amendments to House Bill 264. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the House does now concur to the Senate amendments to House Bill 264, and House Bill 96 is amended to the Senate, and House Bill 264 is amended to the Senate, and referred to the Judiciary Rules Administration Committee for engrossing. The House will now advance to the fifth order of business. Report of standing committees. The House at the fifth order of business.
In the House of Representatives, March 26th, 2025, Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration, report that we have enrolled House Bills 236 as amended in the Senate, 185 as amended in the Senate, 282 as amended in the Senate, 81 as amended in the Senate, 136 as amended in the Senate, 266 as amended in the Senate, 150 as amended in the Senate, and 102 as amended in the Senate. SCOG, Chairman.
House Bill 236 is amended to the Senate. House Bill 185 is amended to the Senate. House Bill 282 is amended to the Senate. House Bill 81 is amended to the Senate. House Bill 136 is amended to the Senate. House Bill 266 is amended to the Senate. House Bill 150 is amended to the Senate. And 102 is amended to the Senate. We signed by the Speaker and returned to the Senate for the signature of the Senate President.
March 26th, 2025, Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration, report that we have transmitted enrolled House Concurrent Resolution 17 to the Secretary of State at 11:27 a.m. March 26th, 2025. SCOG, Chairman. March 26th, 2025, Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Transportation and Defense, report that we have had under consideration Senate Bills 1140 as amended, 1144, 1153, and 1159, and recommend that they do pass. Palmer, Chairman.
Senate Bill 1140 is amended, 1144, 1153, and 1159 will be filed for the second reading calendar.
March 26th, 2025, Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee on Transportation and Defense, report that we have had under consideration Senate Bill 1071 as amended, and report it back to be placed on general orders. Palmer, Chairman.
Senate Bill 1071 as amended will be placed on general orders. Without objection, the House now advance the eighth order of business, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills and joint resolutions. The House at the eighth order of business.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill 459 by Appropriations Committee, an act relating to the appropriation to the Department of Labor, appropriating additional monies to the Department of Labor for fiscal year 2026, reducing the appropriation to the Department of Labor for fiscal year 2026, reducing the number of authorized full-time equivalent positions, appropriating and transferring monies from the Employment Security Administration and Reimbursement Fund to the Employment Security Fund, providing for a fund balance adjustment for the Federal Grant Fund, providing for a fund balance adjustment for the Employment Security Special Administration Fund, providing for a fund balance adjustment for the Employment Security Fund, providing for a fund balance adjustment for the Employment Security Reserve Fund, providing for a report on full-time positions and vacancies, providing for a report on illegal immigration and E-Verify, providing for a report on disability determination services, providing for conditions, limitations, and restrictions, and declaring an emergency and providing an effective date. House Bill 460 by Appropriations Committee, an act relating to the appropriation to the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, appropriating additional monies to the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation for fiscal year 2026, appropriating additional monies to the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation for fiscal year 2025, providing conditions for use of appropriated funds from the Federal Grant Fund, requiring service prioritization, requiring a report on service providers, providing conditions, limitations, and restrictions, and declaring an emergency and providing effective dates.
House Bill 459 and 460 will refer to Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for printing. The House will now return to the seventh order of business. Motion, memorials, and resolutions. House at seventh order of business. Gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for a privilege in the motion.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good ladies and gentlemen, just as we're following up on the second reading, we've still got some bills there. We're just going to be pulling those up as we go down there, almost in line, but there's a couple we have to skip over. Also, I need to move something on the third reading as well, and I'll make a motion. You'll hear that here in just a minute there. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that House Bill 437, that's on the third reading calendar, be sent to general orders. And if I could speak to that motion.
Gentleman has the floor. Speak the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's my bill, and I'm going to send it there because the sponsor has requested that. So, so that's why I'm sending it there. For another motion, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that all rules interfering with the immediate consideration of House Bill 449.
Good gentleman, before you go on, I probably ought to ask, is there anybody who objects to the good gentleman referring his bill to general orders? Hearing none, so ordered. Good gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that all rules interfering with the immediate consideration of House Bill 449 be suspended, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 449.
Good lady, hold on. I'm waiting for the gentleman from 13. I need him to sit down on this motion. Good lady from 18.
I second the motion.
You've heard the motion to suspend rules. For House Bill 449. It's a non-debatable motion, requires 2/3 of the body or 47 votes to pass. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members cast their votes. Everyone voted. Representative Shepherd. Excuse me. Zimmer must change their vote. Clerk will lock sheet and record the roll. 68 ayes, 2 absent and excused. More than 2/3 of the body having voted in favor of the motion. The motion passes and the House will have for consideration House Bill 449. Good gentleman 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 449.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 449 is part of our public schools budget. This is the Central Services Division within public schools. And if you look at the fiscal note, you'll notice that there were 4 line items that were requested by the Superintendent of Public Instruction. We moved 2 of those line items into a different budget because we thought that they were a better fit in a different budget. Line item number 5, we decided not to fund. And then line item number 4, which is the student transportation routing software. Now what this is software that is used to do GPS routing for school districts so that they can make their transportation routes more effective, more efficient, use less gas, cost less money, less paperwork for the people administering the travel routes. So basically this type of software, what it does is it actually saves money for school districts. Now quite a few school districts, especially the larger ones, already have a software like this in place, but many of the small districts do not. And so there's a lot of potential savings for those districts if the state were to purchase the software itself that can then be used by any of the districts. It would also potentially offer up savings to those districts who already have a transportation software like that, which could then be passed on as property tax relief potentially by those school districts. So what we did with this is it was requested at $5 million on an ongoing basis, but we weren't sure exactly how many school districts were going to use it, and there's really no way to know that until the program is out. And so we funded it at a partial amount of $2.2 million on a one-time basis so that we could do this as an experiment, find out how many districts are going to use it, and then fund it next year on an ongoing basis if the program is successful. So this represents basically an experiment in something that we think could save the state and a lot of school districts potentially a lot of money and make their transportation significantly more effective. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has, and I'd ask for a green light.
For the motion, for debate on the motion. Delay from 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thought it was my turn to stand up and debate against a bill.
The lady has the floor. Debate against bill.
Early in the session, I was going to bring a bus transportation bill, and in conferring with the Department of Education, they told me that this software already existed. They did not tell me that it existed in just certain districts. They did tell me that it was going to cost about $500,000 for other districts to purchase this software. This is why I did not bring this bill, because it definitely goes against my pledge. Now they're coming and asking, we're all getting $2.2 million for software. This is a 15.5% increase in their budget for something that they told me they already had. So I don't know why they're coming and saying it's experimental, why it's needed now for other districts when they told me to my face they already had it, and the districts had the opportunity that they could purchase what the state already possessed. So, and according, along with my pledge, our pledge of 1.2%, this is way too high. So I'm going to have to be a no, and I hope everybody else will be too.
For the bail and bill, good lady from 2.
Thank you. Would the lady yield to a question?
Good lady from 8 yields a question from the lady from 2.
Lady yields.
Lady yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, good lady. We've heard a lot about, I've taken a pledge, and I just am unclear. Is this a pledge to a lobbyist group? Is it a pledge to your citizens? What is this pledge we keep talking about, that you've taken this pledge? And I'm just kind of curious, and you were the first today, so I thought I'd ask you.
Lady from 8.
I'm happy to answer that question. This pledge was to each other and to the citizens of Idaho. We came up with this pledge ourselves. The pledge is to fully fund maintenance budgets, hire no new employees, stop taking federal money with all of the strings attached, and cap our budget growth at 1.2%. If we did this, we would save at least $1 billion on the Idaho state budget this year. But that is our pledge.
For the bail on motion, lady 2.
Just a quick follow-up question.
Lady yields additional question.
Lady yields.
Lady yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, good lady. Who is ourselves, pledged with ourselves? I don't know who. Thank you.
Lady from 8.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. May I mention names?
I'd probably prefer we don't ask names. I think we're getting off track here a little bit, but I do understand the good lady's concern with this, we signed a pledge or whatever going on all the time, and excuse to vote against bills, but I'd rather we don't have names. I
actually was prepared to answer this question, but I do need, this is our gang of 8, which would be myself, Representative Hostetler, Representative Levitt, Representative Marmon, Representative Kaler, Senator Zito, and Senator Zeiderveld. We are the gang of 8, and we are the
again, I prefer you don't mention the name, but you did anyway, so you didn't listen.
It was
You're not
asked.
very good at listening. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman from 7. I guess you can speak. You're not of the whatever the gang is. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Appreciate that. Would the good gentleman from 21 yield to a question?
Gentleman 21 yield.
Happy to, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, good gentleman. You mentioned that some schools already have this system in place. Do they own that system, or are they leasing it from somebody else?
Gentleman 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are numerous software providers that provide a software like this, and that all the different districts that have one currently, there's a wide variety of those softwares being used. And so if the state were to purchase one specifically that any of the districts could use, a lot of those districts have expressed that they'd be willing to change over to whichever one the state ends up using. And that would be, it would come about as a matter of the procurement process, which software was picked.
For follow-up,
Gentleman 7, gentleman 21 yield to additional question.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, so the schools that have it now, did they purchase it, or are they renting it?
Gentleman 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. They're renting it, I guess is the way you phrase that, yes, from a software provider.
Thank you. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 28.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to debate the bill.
Come as for.
Thank you. In our community, there are 2 different organizations that use routing software like this. One is the School District 25, Pocatello Chubby School District, and the other is the City of Pocatello in their sanitation department. And we have found it extremely advantageous, particularly on days that the school district has a shortage of drivers. And we've had days when that district has had to recruit cooks and anybody with a CDL in the district to go out. This routing software provides a way for people to find where students are waiting. In our sanitation department, it enables us to track where our trucks are, where they're stopped, where they're not, where they're at, what they're doing, how heavy their loads are. Provides tremendous advantage, and we've decreased our fuel costs in the city because of this kind of software. We know if two guys are sitting in a parking lot somewhere talking that they shouldn't be, and that they're working and they're doing their job. The school district has found it extremely advantageous to maintain vehicles, to know where they're going, to know what their maintenance needs are. They're very advantageous. I urge you to spend a little money to save a lot.
For debate on the motion. Hearing none, gentleman 21 carried close. Oh, gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the good gentleman from 21 stand for a question?
Gentleman 21 yield to a question.
Happy to, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good gentleman. You saying that this will save the schools, will the money come back to the state, or does it just save the schools and it increases our budget?
Gentleman 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman, great question. No, it would be the school districts could potentially save money because they would have decreased fuel costs, decreased administrative costs, etc. That would not necessarily be reverted back to the state, but that could potentially be passed on to property tax, or they could, defer other expenses that they have within their school district.
Thank you.
For debate on the motion. Gentleman 21 carried close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you everybody for the questions. As far as what the good lady from 8 raised around there already being something like this out there, the state does not have a software like this currently. That's why we're looking at doing this. There are a lot of school districts that do not have something like this, and it's something that I think would be very beneficial. It would make our districts more efficient. It would save money, whether it comes back to the state or it stays within the districts. We all pay taxes into both of those entities, and we would save it in one place or the other. I think it's a great thing. Spend a little bit of money up front and get a return on that investment, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Debate is closed. Question is, House Bill 449 pass the House. Clerk will mark the machine and members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Nicholson. Does anyone wish to change their vote? Clerk will lock machine, record the roll. 32 ayes, 33 nay, 5 absent and excused, majority having voted against House Bill 449. House Bill 449 has failed to pass the House and we filed the office of Chief Clerk. Gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for suspension of rules on House Bill 449 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 450, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 450.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing that roll call use suspension of rules on House Bill 449, where 68 ayes, 2 absent and excused, the rules are suspended. The House will have under consideration House Bill 450. Good gentleman 29.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 450.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing that, gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the appropriation for the Department of Fish and Game for enhancements for FY 2026 to the maintenance budget. It includes funding for recreational access leases, includes funding for leases at the McCall Regional Office, improvements to regional offices in Coeur d'Alene and Jerome, hatchery improvements, software licenses, some IT hardware, fire rehabilitation funds. You'll see in those fire rehabilitation funds a supplemental request for some expenditures made this year for the Boise Valley Fire and some additional enhancements related to that fire in the Boise River Wildlife Management Area going forward. There's been some settlement funds received for that fire, and so this enhancement is for $800,000 to expend those funds in that settlement. This does not add any additional personnel in this budget, and there are no monies from the general fund. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for your support.
Is for debate on the motion. Gentleman 25.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Debate.
Gentleman has the floor.
I was just looking over this budget. It does take a bunch of federal money. It takes $7,967,500. That's more strings attached, more federal funds that this state is taking. And with that, I can't support this bill. Thank you.
For debate on the motion. Gentleman 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to point out that those federal funds that come into Fish and Game, those are Pittman-Robertson funds. Those come from excise taxes on firearms. They are earmarked for specific things related to firearm-specific things. I think this is a great bill. If you love the Second Amendment, this is our firearm money coming back, being used for good things.
Thank you, gentlemen. For debate on the motion. Hearing none, gentleman 29, care to close the debate.
Just ask for your support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Base closed. Question issue, House Bill 450, pass the House. Clerk will not sheet members of cast their votes. Has every member voted? Achilles. Does anyone wish to change their vote? Clerk will not record the roll. 39 ayes, 26 nays, 5 absent and excused. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 450. House Bill 450 is passed. House. Correction to title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, title is approved. Bill be transmitted to the Senate. Gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for suspension of rules on House Bill 449 now be used for the suspension rules on 451, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 451.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Excuse me. You're not objecting. Hearing none, the roll call used for suspension rules on House Bill 449 were 68 ayes, 2 absent and excused. The rules are suspended. The House will have for consideration House Bill 451. Good gentleman 24.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to suspend the reading of House Bill 451.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is for the educational services for the deaf and blind, located in Gooding, Idaho. It's the only one in the state and one of the very few in the Northwest. So what they do is they take in kids that are hard of hearing, blind, or visually impaired. They have a campus there in Gooding where the kids that require the more intensive services, they go and they're actually residents there. And they serve 115 students at that location now, and they're building another cottage that will add a little bit more room. There's quite a backup log of students in line for these kinds of services, and they're working towards servicing that. Now, there's an outreach portion of this that goes all over the state. It serves schools, it serves some people at home. There's 2,250 students and younger age also that receive these services. In the last 5 years, there's been an increase of 43% of the applications people require are looking for these kinds of services. And our state population's gone up 20%, so that is a portion of that. But there are just more kids that have these issues now than have had before. So the spending, the first line item is career ladder equivalent, and that's just like it sounds. These teachers aren't part of the public school teachers ladder, so they get an equivalence. They add some additional money for these teachers to make it equivalent to the ladder. There's the additional compensation to recruit and retain. These teachers not only have special ed degrees, but they also have to sign. There's different things they use for blind. They've got skill sets that go quite a ways beyond a public school teacher. And so it costs a lot more money. They wind up going to Washington, to Montana, to different places in the Northwest to find people with these skill sets. And then for some reason, everybody doesn't want to live in Gooding. I don't know why. It's a great place. But it takes a little more money sometimes to get people to come and live in Gooding to be there. And the Region 4 consulting is because there's been such a growth of this population in the Magic Valley area. Their service is 1 to 100. So that's an issue, that's a problem. There's a lot of these kids aren't getting what they need. They don't have the staff to be able to address that. The $250,000 is endowment money that is assigned. That's what it's in there, dedicated there, that goes to the school. So we have a growth, general fund growth of 7.6, dedicated to 5.4, and that's a total growth of 7.6. But I remind you, there's a 43% growth in the population that they're serving. So if you want kids to learn to cope and to thrive with their disabilities and become taxpayers, that's the line that the superintendent there always uses. Is his goal is to make taxpayers out of these kids, to get them out and to be able to function and be independent. And we need a green light on this bill. Thank you.
Now do it. For the debate on the motion, delay 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman, without touching his speaker, like to answer a question?
Good gentleman, maybe don't turn it on. Leave it high and then use it and leave it up. Good gentleman, 24 yield.
Certainly.
Gentleman yield.
Thank you, good gentleman. I've just a quick question on in table 1 where it says the career ladder placement. Why would the career ladder placement equivalents not be part of the base, just like the career ladder is part of the base?
I'm 24.
Curious about that.
Mr. Speaker, good lady, this is the increase, just like we see in public schools. This is the equivalent of that increase.
Follow up, please, sir.
Gentleman yield to additional question.
Okay, so I guess
Gentleman yields.
Thank you if you yield. My question, I guess, let me try this another time, but in the public school, it's my understanding, and maybe I'm incorrect, that when we have our career ladder increases, those are part of the base budget. And so I was just kind of curious why this would not be part of the base budget if they're not on the career ladder, but they do have the ladder placement equivalency. So I'm just wondering if that shouldn't be part of the base.
Gentleman, 24.
Speaker, good lady, I didn't touch it.
I saw that.
Okay, on the public schools, that's wrapped into this year into the CEC, right? So that lands in a different place. This is a separate line item. It's equivalent, but it comes from a different place.
Okay.
6.
Thank you. I'll leave it there. Thank
For the
you.
debate of the motion, good gentleman, 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just add a little bit more clarity to that for the good lady. So,
would the good gentleman like to debate the bill?
To debate in favor of the bill, Mr.
Gentleman
Speaker.
has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So to give a little more clarity there, the way that works in our public schools budget, you will see a similar line item in the teacher's budget. That's the non-discretionary or the population forecast adjustments. That is where that career ladder equivalency comes in on the public schools budget. The School for the Deaf and Blind is not a school district. They are a state agency. And so that is why we have to do an equivalent line item so that the teachers at the School for the Deaf and Blind are matched with the same movements that the school districts get through the K-12 budget.
For the debate of the motion. Hearing none and hearing no negative debate, debate is closed. Question is, shall House Bill 451 pass the House? Clerk will unlock machine, members cast votes. Has every member voted? Birch. Marmon. Members change their vote. Clerk will machine report prepared.
Stogg votes aye. Hostetler votes nay.
55 ayes, 13 nays, 2 absent, excused. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 451. House Bill 451 is passed the House. Correct your title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, title is approved. Bill be transferred to the Senate. Jump 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for suspension of rules on House Bill 449 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 452, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 452.
Ask has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the roll call use suspension of rules on House Bill 449 with 68 ayes, 2 absent, and excused. The rules are suspended. The House will have for consideration House Bill 452. Good gentlemen, 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 452.
Has consent been requested? Is there objection? Hearing none, gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the enhancement appropriation bill for the Idaho Digital Learning Academy. Now, I know a lot of you have been getting emails about the Idaho Home Learning Academy, about a bill that's over in the Senate related to them. That is not this. This is the Idaho Digital Learning Academy. So those are two separate things. Just wanted to get that clear right out of the gate. Idaho Digital Learning Academy is a state agency that provides classes usually in a supplemental way for students. So for example, if you're in a high school that doesn't offer a, say, web design class and you want to take web design, you know, speaking as somebody who did this in high school, you can go to IDLA and you can take the web design class through IDLA that your high school does not offer. Provide lots of great options for students through the Idaho Digital Learning Academy. The way that they're funded is that they get a certain dollar amount per enrollment in one of their classes. And so what we do every year is we set an estimate for how many students or how many courses they estimate that they will be providing to Idaho students. The number of enrollments that they've had has been growing very consistently. That's both just because naturally students are taking more and more classes online, and also some changes that we've made. For example, the gentleman from, I believe 3 or 5, carried a bill a few years or last year that added their driver's ed into their portfolio. And so they've seen quite a bit of an increase in the number of enrollments that IDLA has had. And so that is the one line item in this budget is essentially reflecting that estimate. Now, if their enrollments come in below that number, all of that money would be reverted back to PSIF. So they don't get to spend the money unless the students actually show up and take the classes. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for your green light.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the motion, for debate on the motion. Hearing none, hearing no negative debate. Debate's closed. Question is, shall House Bill 452 pass the House? Clerk will unlock the machine. Members will cast the votes. Has every member voted? Has any members changed their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 51 ayes, 15 nays, 4 absent, excused. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 452. House Bill 452 is passed the House. Correction title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, title approved. Bill be transferred to the Senate. Jump 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to the roll call used for suspension rules on House Bill 449 now be used for the suspension rules on House Bill 453, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 453.
As consent been requested, is there objection? Hearing none, the roll call use suspension rules on House Bill 449 are 68 ayes, 2 absent, and excused. The rules are suspended, and the House will have for consideration House Bill 453. Good gentleman from 24.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask everyone to agree to abandon the reading of 453, House Bill 453.
As consent been requested, is there objection? Hearing none, gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is about public school facilities, and it's just like it sounds. It's school district facilities and charter school facilities. And this is primarily a population forecast. That's what the 586,300 is. And the other part of it is dedicated funds, which is the lottery. This is a portion that comes from the lottery, and it's negative because the lottery projections are down. So that winds up with a total that's a negative 10%. And I kind of think they gave me this bill to make up for the Commission on Aging. So if you want to save money, then let's have a green light on this bill. And for those of you not familiar, that's the one on the left. Thank you.
And we know who those 8 are. Is there further debate on the motion? Joan, 24.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to debate the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
But probably not as most would expect. I want to congratulate the team. JFAC's been doing a great job, and I know they're getting some heat here. But this is my kind of bill. I see this as a green light for sure. And of course, I'm not a big fan of the word gang, so you can use the word group of 8, and it's a lonely 8. So feel free to join in, especially on this one with the green light. Thank you guys for your hard work.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's the other adjectives they use with data, their problem. Is there further debate on the motion? Hearing none, debate is closed. Question is, shall House Bill 453 pass the House? Clerk will lock the sheet and there's the cast of votes. Has everyone voted? Birch, Gannon. Seniors change their vote. Clerk will lock the sheet and record the roll. 66 aye, 4 absent, excused, majority having voted in favor of House Bill 453. House Bill 453 is passed. House. Correction title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, title approved, bill transferred to the Senate. Gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent for the roll call used for suspension of rules on House Bill 449 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 454, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 454.
As consent been requested, is there objection? Hearing none, the roll call used suspension of rules on House Bill 449 with 68 ayes, 2 absent and excused. The rules are suspended. The House will have for consideration House Bill 454. Good lady from 4. A lot of 4s.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent that we dispense with further reading of House Bill 454.
That's consent been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the good lady has the floor.
So this is another enhancement bill. It's for public schools support division of teachers. Like we talked about before, this is the career ladder adjustment. It nets out to an increase of $1,630,500 because there is a reduction in student support or support units. So there's 200 less support units. It is an increase of 0.1, and I ask for your green light.
Thank you, lady, for the motion. Is further debate on the motion? Hearing none. Debate is closed. Question is, gentleman from 7. I think I know what you're standing up for.
Conflict, yes. My wife is a teacher.
Thank you. Your conflict will be noted in the journal. Good gentleman, have you got a conflict?
No, but you looked surprised that one of us didn't. I'd like to debate actually now.
Gentleman has the floor today.
I want to once again congratulate the crew. We've all heard about the pledge. This hits all of our marks. No full-time employees, no federal funds, and what is that, 0.1 growth? That's beautiful. I love this. So absolute green light. Thank you again for inspiring me, Mr. Speaker.
I'm glad I did. It was good to hear you compliment the guys doing all the work. Further debate on the motion. Jill, good lady from 6.
Yeah, would the good lady stand for a question, please?
Good lady from 4 yield to a question.
Lady yields.
Thank
Lady
you.
yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and good lady. I'm looking at the fiscal note that talks about the fact that is estimated that there would be a reduction in fewer support units. And why would that be a reduction? Why are we thinking we're going to have less support units in our estimation?
Good lady from 4.
It was just, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was just discussed that they project 200 fewer support units. It has to do with the traveling of students through the grades, and they get different support units based on where the students lands in the grade, and they're projecting 200 less.
Okay, follow up, Mr. Speaker.
Good lady from 4 yield to the additional question from the good lady from 6.
Lady yields.
Lady yields.
Thank you, Speaker and good ladies. So is there an estimate, though, in this based on House Bill 93 that passed earlier, that there's an estimation of a certain amount of students that would be leaving the districts because of that bill passing?
Good lady from 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That was not discussed, nor was it said that that was the reason why these support units were going to be fewer.
For debate on the motion.
Thank you. No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Good lady, 32.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor of the bill.
Good lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are actually down 279 support units this year from what we were last year. We're estimating a 0.5% increase in support units for next year, which gets us from 279 to 200 fewer support units. But if you look at, and I handed this out in caucus, it's been handed out in Joint Finance Appropriation Committee, we only have 100 more students this year than we had last year. But this mobility among students is happening now, and House Bill 93 is not in effect yet. If you look at the size of the incoming first grade class compared to the outgoing senior class, I think it's around 4,000 students fewer coming into the system than are exiting the system. And as the good lady from 4 said, not all students are funded equally. It depends on their age, depends on which district they attend, for which index they get. Again, an advertisement for a new school funding formula that's based on an equal amount per student with weights for students that we know cost more to educate. This mobility among students is happening now prior to school choice. Nampa has closed 4 schools. Pocatello has closed a school. Coeur d'Alene is closing schools. The birth rate is impacting us. There's fewer kids. Families are having fewer children in general. And so that's all happening in a pre-school choice environment. So in no way, shape, or form is the reduction of support units connected to House Bill 93. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For debate on the motion. Hearing none, debate is closed. Question is House Bill 454 pass the House. Clerk will mark the machine. Members cast their votes. Seven members voted. Representative Fraser. Does anyone else change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine, record the roll. 66 ayes, 4 absent, excused, majority having voted in favor of House Bill 454. House Bill 454 is passed the House. Correction to title.
No correction to
Hearing
title.
none, the title is approved. Bill transferred to the Senate. Gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to the roll call used for suspension rules on House Bill 449 now be used for the suspension rules on House Bill 174 as amended in the Senate, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 174 as amended in the Senate.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, the roll call used. Suspension rules on House Bill 449 were 68 ayes, 2 absent and excused. The rules are suspended and House Bill under consideration. House Bill 174 is amended in the Senate. Good lady from 9.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask for unanimous consent that we dispense with further reading of House Bill 174 as amended in the Senate.
As consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, delay has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. These are friendly amendments. All the Senate wanted to do was put in one place, including commercial property, and in another place, excluding commercial property. You know, they always have to do a little something to our bills, it seems. So I would ask that we concur with this. Thank you.
Thank you, lady. You've heard the motion. It's for debate on the motion. Hearing none, hearing no debate. Debate is closed. Question is House Bill 174 is amended in the Senate. Pass the House. Clerk will lock the machine. Members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Rebel, Birch. Does any member change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine. Report the roll. 64 ayes, 2 nays, 4 absent, excused. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 174 has been in the Senate. House Bill 174 has been in the Senate. Passed House. Correction title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the title is approved. Bill will be transferred to the Senate. Gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to the roll call used for suspension rules on House Bill 449 now be used for the suspension rules on House Bill 239 as amended in the Senate, making it possible for the immediate consideration of House Bill 239 as amended in the Senate.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing Hearing none, the roll call use suspension rules on House Bill 449 with 68 ayes, 2 absent, and excused. The rules are suspended. The House bill under consideration, House Bill 239, as amended in the Senate. Good lady from 33.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request unanimous consent to cease for the reading of House Bill 239 as amended in the Senate.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection? Hearing none, good lady has the floor. Present the bill.
Awesome. Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Let me just primarily address the changes. This House basically supported overwhelmingly 58 to 12. The Senate supported it overwhelmingly. I think it was 29 to 6. So we basically are taking the changes that was suggested by the Senate, making sure that when we come to the definition of sexuality, that everyone understands we're not teaching that definition of sexuality, which of course we didn't want to. We're using the definition to indicate what can't be taught, rather. We also made sure that we put a few more parameters in for the school board to really make sure that if and when there's a concern by the parents with that which is being taught, if their child wasn't properly opted in, that the school board then had a little more direction. We don't want it to have to go to a cause of action. That is the last resort, and we tried to make that very clear. Again, this is a parental rights bill, absolutely, when it comes to one of the most fundamental things, which has to do with what we want our kids viewing when it comes to sexuality, the conversations in which we want to engage with our children. More than anything, when you look across the country, when you see the school boards with the parents in an uproar, this is why they're in an uproar. This is a topic. And so this House already concurred with this bill, largely supported it. And I would just ask that you support me in supporting the few changes the Senate included. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, lady, for the motions. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman, 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate. This is not a parental rights bill. Parents already have the right to opt their kids out of sex education. The opt-out rate, anyone who wants to opt out their kids from sex education class has knows to do that. Okay? The opt-out rate in the West Ada School District last time I checked was about 2%. My work in marketing and Hewlett-Packard with opt-ins and opt-outs, when you do it on the opt-in, you're going to probably have maybe one side or the other of 50% opt-in. And the process of making sure that parents get the information to make sure they opt in, it's if you want to see more sexually transmitted diseases and more unwanted pregnancies, then vote for this bill.
Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, good gentleman. I agree.
Thank you.
Be careful, good job, 15.
That is Mr. Speaker, that is the consequence of young adults not getting proper sexual education.
Good gentleman, I think that's probably your opinion, and it may not be.
Well, I think everything that's expressed in this room is our opinions, and that is my opinion.
Good gentleman, be careful, please.
That is the
debate, but be careful.
Okay. When you don't get education, there are consequences. And that's one of the consequences. That's why we teach sex education. Parents have the right to opt their kids out. Any parent that doesn't want their kid to have this education, they can do that now. But when you turn it into an opt-in, you're going to see the participation in these classes drop because of the process associated with that and the inability to get people to know, in fact, that they should be opting in. This is a really careless bill that really can put our young adults in danger.
For debate on the motion, gentleman, 7.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate in favor.
Gentleman has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope less kids attend classes that deal with human sexuality. It's not public school's job to teach human sexuality. This is a parental issue. This is why it's a parental rights bill. We have a parental responsibility and a parental accountability issue. The only way we're going to fix it is by putting more pressure back on the parents to have more instruction with their own students and their own kids to teach them these things that they're supposed to be teaching them at home. I don't send my kids to public education so that some teacher can talk to them about sexuality. That's not sex ed. Sex ed is a whole different concept. This bill gets down to the nitty-gritty and makes people make a choice for the instruction of their own children. It's plain and simple. This bill will fix things, not break things, and that's the direction we need to head in. Give it a green light. Thank you.
For debate on the motion, gentleman through 26.
Mr. Speaker, to debate and narrowly, please.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you. My issue with this bill the first time, and it's my issue with it this time, is that we very carefully defined in this human sexuality. I think page 1, line 18, in the division of human sexuality, we've thrown in sex abuse. To me, it's ridiculous to ask a school official to call home and get permission to investigate suspected sexual abuse that may be happening at the home from a step parent, wherever it's happening from. I'm all for parental approval, parental involvement. It's all great. Sadly, in some of the ugly sides of the world, when people have to investigate sexual abuse, to have to ask the perpetrator if it's okay to investigate them, I'm a no.
For debate on the motion, delayed for 4.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman from 26 stand for a question?
Gentleman 26 yield the question.
You bet.
Gentleman yields.
Can you show me in the bill what line that it says that they're saying that they can't do that? That they can't ask or protect children from sexual abuse? Because I think I'm reading the bill and it talks about instruction on this.
Gentleman 26.
Personally, the whole point of this is parental permission to address anything with human sexuality. And I still come back to the letter of the law, if we pass this, that to address human sexuality with any student and you suspect sexual abuse at home, if this law passes, you have to call home. And I can't find any place in there for people to get out of it. And I'd also would add that school people that work at schools don't have a choice. They're mandatory reporters. We take away their credentials if they have any suspicion at all of any of these things going on. So conceptually and line by line, parental permission, involvement is wonderful, but making somebody call home to investigate sexual abuse, and I'd love to see a line in there that says, if you suspect sexual abuse, get right after it. Sadly, human sexuality, line 12, we threw sexual abuse into that. So, unless we have other questions, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think you're talking about line 18. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, doesn't take very long to do a quick search on Grok or whatever your favorite AI is and ask real simply, does increased in sex education result in less STDs? And the answer is no. Since we've started sex ed, we've seen some decreases in some types of STDs, and we've seen increases in others. Jury's out. To make those claims is uninformed and I think wrong.
Further debate on the motion, and then I would agree that we probably ought to keep the debate to the bill. We're getting way out in la la land. Further debate on the motion. Hearing none, with the lady from 33 care to close the debate.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to close this debate, and I'd like to clear up some, I'll just be kind and say misinformation. And I don't know why this seems to happen with some of the things. People add things to my bills that aren't there. It's kind of entertaining, but it's not there. We did not touch sex education. Let me be clear, sex education was not touched. That would be incorrect. Idaho statutes define sex education already. Now, if you decide to go outside those boundaries of sex education and start teaching sexuality as what happened in Southeast Idaho, And so we used it as testimony. Some of you in our House Education didn't get it, but the Senate did, with testimony where a whole class, actually it's being taught through the year, it's had to be pulled back, where their kids were given such graphic information on private parts and the number of nerve endings in private parts on both boys and girls, and then sent home told to go research it. It was leading
Good lady, we're going off into new information. I think we need to come back.
I'm so sorry. I was talking about sex education, but actually, and what happened. So I guess I was kind of responding, and so I can bring it back though.
The speaker let it get too far. I'll take.
Yeah, no, not a problem. But just pointing out that our parents are so upset about this. But again, sex education is not touched so long as we stay within those bounds. I think it's tough to impugn motives of the parents, impugn motives, certainly my motives. Let's talk about the sexual abuse that supposedly can't be addressed in here. This legislation is about what's taught in the classroom, okay? It's not about if an individual goes to a counselor, and I want to make this very clear for my good friend over there, okay? If an individual goes to a counselor because they have been sexually abused, they are 100% obligated by the law to report that to the police. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have to report that to the police. This does not in any way prevent that from happening. This means that you're not going to be able to use the Kite Runner or some of these novels that are out there that have been being chose, where not only do they go into sexual abuse, but they use, and I used this before, the example of male-on-boy rape. I don't want that taught to our kids. Now, if the parents, without at least parental permission, that has to happen first. So when we also talk about, as I was hearing that this isn't happening, okay, so Mr. Speaker, even though I feel like I'm responding, I guess I won't ask permission to read. I'm going to paraphrase another bit of information I got. You can stop me if you want to.
This is new information, lady. We would not.
It would be responding to what has been said. Can I? Oh, you can.
Good lady, there's an old saying: when you're winning, stop.
Wait,
And so I would encourage you to stick to the bill.
Okay, then
we're getting out La La Land again. So
that's a really good point. It's just the parents want to be heard, and when their kids, because of the sexuality, have to role play and use words and told to grow up, these things are abusive to the kids. So please give it the green light. You did before. Support our parents. This is a parental rights bill.
Debate is closed. Question is House Bill 239 is amended in the Senate. Pass the House. Clerk will unlock the machine. There's the cast of votes. Has every member voted?
Oh, Lord.
Nicholson?
Look at that.
Bruce?
Oh, Lord.
So you guys change the vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the roll. 56 ayes, 10 nay, 4 absent, excused. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 239 is amended in the Senate. House Bill 239 is amended in the Senate. Pass the House. So correction title.
No correction to title.
Hearing none, the title be approved and the bill be returned to the Senate. The House will now, without objection, advance to 15th order of business announcements. House is at the 15th order of business. Are there announcements? The gentleman from 11. Gentleman from 11.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
I would just like to announce that my wonderful College of Idaho Coyotes from Caldwell, in my district, are national champion basketball.
Thank you, good gentlemen. Congratulations to the college. Any other announcements? Hearing none, clerk may read.
House Appropriations Committee will meet jointly with Senate Finance, subject to call of the chair, Foreman Chairman. House Education Committee will meet Thursday, March 27th, 9 a.m., East Wing Room 41, Pickett Chairman. House Revenue and Taxation Committee will meet Thursday, March 27th, 9 a.m., East Wing Room 42, Cannon Chairman. House State Affairs Committee will meet Thursday, March 27th, 9 a.m., East Wing Room 40, Crane 13, Chairman.
Are there further announcements? Hearing none, House will advance 16th order of business. Adjournment. House 16th order of business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House do now adjourn.
hadn't quite got there. Gentleman 22.
You were there.
Mr.
Mr. Speaker, we're trying to get done, and I'm just trying to get us as fast as we can to be done. So I move that the House do now adjourn until 10:30 a.m. Thursday, March 27th, 2025.
Lady from 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Gang of Nine, I second the motion.
It's not a debatable motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes and the House will be adjourned until the hour of 10:30 a.m. Thursday, March 27th, 2025.
You know, I hope you're paying attention to what went on today. I certainly hope you are.